Hello, men. Hope you've had a good week. We've reached Friday, and the weekend is about to begin. Replicant Fish here, the fishy master himself. With this one, do we overthink things as men? Do we not think about things enough? Do we stress ourselves out with unnecessary thoughts? Do we burden ourselves with the thoughts of others, or in thinking of others? The mind indeed. Yes, the mind is a powerful thing. One we can't afford to waste. But do we waste time thinking too much rather than doing? Let's begin with the thoughts of another person. How for all the things you have to do in your life, your day-to-day life, how no matter the importance of those things, the thought of another could outweigh, and does outweigh everything else. Makes everything else seem boring and not as important, even if they are actually more important. Like feeding yourself, you'd think feeding yourself, putting food into your body would be a more important thing. But not when your mind is plagued, lost to the thoughts of someone else. Now, it doesn't have to be someone you have a crush on, or someone you miss, or someone you know. It could also be the thoughts of a friend, a family member. The worrying of them and how their life is going. Because that's the thing. For all the thoughts we have, it's when we take on the thoughts of others based on what they're going through in their life. For instance, you have a friend, male or female, and they're suffering with an illness, or they're in heavy debt, or they're depressed, or they feel very low about themselves, or their life is not going great. But because of your relationship to them, your bond with them, because of how close they are to you, obviously you feel, in a sense, some of their pain. Almost empathetic, maybe not fully, but heavily. And because of this, even if your life is going okay, it's the worrying about other people that could actually weigh you down. Worrying about them and the things that they're going through. You can question the thought, is it wrong to not want to burden yourself with their issues? Because you understand, in thinking of their issues so heavily, it brings you down as well. It weighs you down. It makes you feel almost as sad and depressed as they do. And because you understand that it's their thing that's making you feel this way, how in a sense one could feel guilty for not wanting to have to suffer their issue. And I'm sure some do feel guilty for this. They want to help someone close to them. They could only do their best, but it's the thought of the pain they're going through. And again, the mind is a powerful thing. But it's how we deal with the thoughts in the mind as well. Now, I am fascinated by the mind. I am fascinated by the mind and the thoughts people have, and then the actions they take based on their thoughts, their desires, their wants, their needs, their security. I'm also fascinated by the interaction between human beings, man and woman, obviously. Made so many videos on it. And it's a sense of what thoughts are going through each of their minds in this interaction. In this natural interaction, this survival instinct interaction to mate, to make other human beings. But for as straightforward as the mating process is, it's the social aspect that comes before the mating process, if you will. And within the social aspect, you could add all the attraction elements, what makes her want you, you want her, and all that nonsense. But the point I'm making with this part is, how much does our subconscious control our desire? For instance, as men, we have this two-brain sort of saying, analogy for a man's sexuality, insult if you will, joke if you will. The two-brain thing, saying that our, let's say, manhood has a mind of its own, which is very easy for many of us to understand, because in a sense it does feel as if it has a mind of its own. That sometimes in the most inappropriate moments, it decides it wants to stand up and have a look around. No, calm down, calm yourself down. But it's that thing. How much is our desire as men controlled by the subconscious? As in a sense, is a reference to the second brain, the reference to the subconscious mind controlling the manhood. An example, you see a woman. She's attractive, but because you can't stand her, you wouldn't do her necessarily. But then your manhood's like, look bro, I don't care what your issue is with her, just get me in there. Talk to her, flirt with her, whatever you have to do, buy her an expensive dinner, do whatever you have to do to get me in there, but I want to go in there. So stop denying it. Don't lie to yourself, bro. Let's get in there. That sort of thing, almost as if you can rationalize the reason for you not wanting to be with that woman there, even though obviously, clearly you would. But it's the fact that the subconscious mind just wants to go. It's the raw desire in us as men, that boundless, no sense of logic, thirsty desire we have as men. In a sense, these are hypothetical examples as well. These are not facts. These are just thoughts I'm sharing with you and asking you as men what you think. So is our manhood controlled by our subconscious? How, for instance, we have an ex, and even though we know this ex is bad for us, the subconscious mind, the manhood is like, yo bro, look, I know she's crazy, I know she gets on your nerves, but I don't care. That's not my job to care, that's your job. Just get me in there. The point I'm making is that if it is so, that in a sense, because of the natural raw desire in us, the survival subconscious instinct in us, and in a second brain theory sort of way, hypothetical example, the subconscious is controlling the second brain. In a sense, how much as men do we lean into that then? Because to stop yourself, to rationalize it, that is when you're thinking. That is when you know you have the desire, but you are then rationalizing the fact that that is dangerous for me to go in there, no matter how much you know you want to go in there. But here's the thing, when does it become overthinking? Does it become overthinking to a point where you think, you know what, there are too many possible red flags here and everywhere with all of them, so thus I will remain here by myself because it is safer, it's more free? Is that a sense of rationality? Or in a sense how some would say, well, you're overthinking it. Yes, certain things may happen here and there and blah blah blah, but you're overthinking the facts, the points. Maybe one should not rationalize his singledom, but try to more rationalize seeking a better mate. And you could say, yes, interesting, it makes perfect sense. That sounds rational, it sounds like a thought out thought, basically. But this is the thing, where is the line between thinking too much and not thinking enough? And as a man, if we do not think enough and focus enough on certain things, does that then make us more vulnerable to our subconscious mind? And what is heavily in the subconscious mind is our desire. Is that what happens when we as men lose focus? When we take our eye off the prize being ourself and the journey? And for the last time, thoughts indeed are a powerful thing. But what about the thoughts of self? How you think about yourself? Is there an overthinking in thinking of yourself? In thinking about yourself? Is that a point of becoming self-obsessed? And when one does not think enough about himself, is that a sense of self-loathing? Some of the most powerful thoughts we would ever have, and will ever have, are the thoughts about ourselves. What we think about ourselves. Now, is it possible to think too much into yourself you could drive yourself insane? Yes, of course. Yes, of course, you could become so self-obsessed that you split yourself into two and you fall in love with yourself, you marry yourself, and that's probably too far. But seriously, it also depends on how you think about yourself as well. Because you can overthink yourself and think yourself into anxiety. Think yourself into fear. Think yourself into wondering if everyone's looking at you, watching you. Is everyone thinking about you? Is no one thinking about you and you are thus so invisible and no one cares? Or is it the overthoughts, the overthinking in self of thinking you're the ultimate, most supreme being there ever was? Everyone is inferior to you. Like Exhibit says, you won't even say your own name when I come around. X. It is good to think good about yourself, to think better about yourself. And yes, it is very easy to get lost in your thoughts and to think about things you should not dwell on so heavily. The thing about the mind is, you do have to almost organize your mind, organize your thinking, to understand what is important and what isn't, what you should be thinking of more and what you should be not really bothered about so much because it's not going to actually do anything for you. But as a man, it is good to think of how you can progress through the organization of your thoughts, because many of our thoughts are linked to our feelings as well. how we see and feel things as well. Many of our thoughts are linked to those. So in organizing your thoughts, in a sense, does it help to organize your feelings as well? It's a good question. What do you think? But like new ideas, sparking, lightning in the brain, in the mind, focus, observe, remember. The world is yours. Have a nice day.